Mangwanani mwalelepo vukenjani xexwa svanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening in the SADC region and beyond. Today is the 1st of December. 1 month to go, 1 month to complete those resolutions made approximately 11 months ago. As usual, you're joined by Ashwin Berry and Aina Raiza Kweyo.
Welcome to December, everyone. Today is World AIDS Day. When the AIDS epidemic broke, because I happened to be a science nerd and I knew a lot about viruses and a lot about this virus, particularly at the time, I felt the moral obligation to go out and try to stem the fear and go out and explain to people what the disease was and how it worked. And here is more on World AIDS Day. Welcome back. In our top stories this morning, Omicron COVID variant underlines the need for global pandemic treaty. The emergence of the threatening new Omicron variant shows how important it is for the world to end the current cycle of panic and neglect over the COVID-19 pandemic, said the head of the World Health Organization on Monday. The World Health Assembly meeting was convened to decide on the issue of the so-called pandemic treaty. He said the world has not responded accordingly to COVID-19 and vaccine equity, among other challenges, has facilitated the appearance of a new highly mutated variant such as Omicron. Omicron demonstrated just why the world needs a new accord on pandemics. Our current system disincentives countries from alerting others to threats that will inevitably land on their shores, said the WHO Director General.
In our second story, Congo denies agreeing to joint operations with Ugandan army. Democratic Republic of Congo's government on Monday denied agreeing to joint operations with Uganda's army to track down Islamist rebels accused of suicide bombings in Kampala, insisting the two countries were only sharing intelligence. Islamic State said their local affiliate, known as the Allied Democratic Forces, were behind a 16 November attack which killed 7 people, including the 3 bombers, and injured dozens more. News reports about the proposed cross-border campaign, which was confirmed by 2 diplomatic sources, have sparked anxiety among some Congolese who recall Uganda's role in civil wars that ended in 2003. A second diplomatic source said the same but also had no more details. Congo's government spokesman Patrick Muyaya said the two armies have been exchanging information for many months and that no Ugandan troops were currently in Congo. Kinshasa is still seeking over $13 billion in reparations from Kampala for Uganda's involvement in the 1998 to 2003 conflict.
Suspected militants killed soldiers in Burkina Faso, desert of the north. Suspected militants killed 4 soldiers in Burkina Faso, northern Lorome province on Sunday, the army said, in the latest of a wave of attacks. The assault came a day after protesters massed the capital of Ouagadougou, accusing the government of failing to stop the mounting violence. Groups linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State have waged a 4-year insurgency in the desert north, killing thousands of people and displacing 1 million. Anger has been mounting for the last 2 weeks since 53 people were killed on the 14th of November in the worst attack on security forces in years. Since then, at least 26 more soldiers and civilians have been killed in scattered attacks in the West African country.
All right, and our next story, Sudan's Burhan dismisses senior intelligence officers, sources say. Sudan's military leader has overhauled top intelligence positions, dismissing at least 8 general intelligence officers and replacing the head of military intelligence, 2 official sources told Reuters on Sunday. The decision by Sovereign Council head Abdel Fattah al-Burhan comes a week after he struck a deal to reinstate Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok, who had been placed under house arrest in an October 25 coup. Of the officers dismissed, 5 were in senior positions and had been in place since before the 2019 overthrow of long-ruling autocrat Omar al-Bashir, the sources said. On Saturday, official sources said Burhan had replaced the head of the General Intelligence Service. Before the coup, the military had been sharing power with civilian groups that took part in an uprising against Bashir. Many within those groups have opposed the deal between Burhan and Hamdok, saying they want the army to exit politics.
Ethiopia denies attack on Sudan and blames the rebels for the violence. Ethiopia has denied it staged an attack over the weekend along its shared border with Sudan, blaming unrest in the disputed zone on rebels from its war-hit Tigray region. On Saturday, Sudan's military said several soldiers had been killed in an attack by armed groups and militia linked to Ethiopian military in the fertile expanse known as Al-Fashaqqa. The area has long been a source of tension between Addis Ababa and Khartoum, sparking deadly clashes over the last year. But in comments that aired on the state media Sunday, Ethiopian government spokesman Segis Tulu dismissed claims the military had attacked Sudan as groundless. Instead, he blamed the violence on the Tigray People's Liberation Front, the fighter group that had been locked in a gruesome war against Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's government since November 2020 and claims to be approaching the capital of Addis Ababa.
More than 20 killed in attack on DR Congo displaced persons camp. Ituri province has plunged back into a cycle of violence since 2017. At least 22 civilians have been killed in an attack on a camp for internally displaced people in the northeast of the Democratic Republic of Congo, an aid worker and civil rights leader have said. This is the 3rd attack by these outlaws against displacement sites in the space of a week in this part of the country, causing more than 50 deaths and enormous material damage, Banza told the Reuters news agency. The Kivu Security Tracker, a US-based monitor of violence in the region, cited the same death toll. EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell called for strong action against the perpetrators. The EU condemns the new appalling attacks committed by the militia against civilian populations, particularly the internally displaced persons, he wrote on Twitter. Decisiveness against the perpetrators and support and justice for the victims are necessary for a lasting peace in the region.
Botswana Appeals Court upholds a ruling that decriminalized gay sex. Botswana's Court of Appeal on Monday upheld a 2019 ruling that decriminalized gay sex, a decision held by gay community as establishing the Southern African country as a true democracy. Monday's decision, in effect, struck off 2 sections of the penal code that had outlawed homosexuality. Regarding the unanimous decision by 5 judges, Court of Appeal Judge President Ian Kirby said the criminalization of consensual same-sex activities violated the constitutional rights of lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and transgender persons to dignity, liberty, privacy and equality. Wearing rainbow-colored masks, members of the gay community at the court reacted with a loud cheer. Some even wept for joy. Government officials were not immediately available for comment on the ruling, which cannot be further appealed as it was the decision by the highest court.
In our next story, Mozambique community security councils are reactivated in Cabo Delgado. At a time when the military is mobilizing against insurgents, the general commander of the PRM, Bernardino Rafael, has announced the formal reactivation of community security councils in Cabo Delgado to combat crime through community policing. The community security councils are cells made up of members elected by the communities who act as observers on the lookout for activities activity that threatens public order and security. It is not a new mission. It is a traditional mission that began in the most primitive communities in which there have always been movements to mitigate conflict, he said. This process of community policing is a commitment of the PRM because only with the support of the community can we discover and stop the criminals who are infiltrating our communities, Bernardino Rafael said. Reality shows that the best police are the community because that's where crime takes place. Therefore, for Cabo Delgado province, we want to reactivate and revitalize the community security councils, bodies of trustworthy people that the population elects in order to guarantee the safety of the community itself in coordination with the police.
Staff suspended as grasshoppers were sold on Ugandan flight. Uganda's national carrier has banned the sale of local grasshopper delicacy on board a flight after an incident over the weekend. Uganda's airline said the sale of the delicacy, locally known as senene, contravened the spirit of the national carrier. The airline said the incident exposed some passengers to unruly market experience on their flight. Local media report that some airline employees have been suspended over the incident. A video was shared online showing a man hawking a grasshopper. The airline says it understands the excitement on board was because the grasshoppers were not in plenty this season and was considering adding the delicacy to its menu on request. This move will boost tourism marketing and the livelihood of people in the grasshopper value chain going forward, they said the airline.
Very interesting. So it's a local delicacy, Ugandan delicacy, but it doesn't go with the spirit of Uganda.
The airline.
All right. In our last top story, South Africa flies 30 white rhinos to Rwanda. It was the largest single transfer of white rhinos ever undertaken. The species is threatened by illegal poaching. It was part of a program to replenish the white rhino population decimated by poaching since the 1970s. Also reintroduced to the Akagera National Park in Rwanda were lions and black rhinos, species which went extinct in the area due to poaching and destruction of habitat in the 1980s and 1990s. According to the World Wildlife Fund, there are currently 20,000 southern white rhinos in the world. White rhino populations decreased by 12% between 2012 and 2017. The other subspecies, the northern white rhino, is on the brink of extinction, with only 2 females remaining. Scientists are trying to save the species by harvesting eggs from one of the 2 surviving females and sperm from 2 deceased males to create embryos in an unprecedented breeding program. The main threat to these animals is illegal poaching due to high demand for their horns in certain Asian countries, mainly China and Vietnam. All right, this is still Africa Good Morning. 1st of December is World AIDS Day. We'll be getting more into that just after the break.
Welcome back to Africa Good Morning. On this World AIDS Day, let's join Winnie Bayingima, the Executive Director of UNAIDS, for her message to the world. And here it is.
Hello, friends. Greetings on this World AIDS Day, and my solidarity with all around the world as we confront the impact of colliding pandemics. This year, the world agreed a bold plan that if leaders fulfill it, will end AIDS by 2030. That's so exciting. But today, we, as the Joint United Nations Programme on AIDS, we issue a stark warning. AIDS remains a pandemic. The red light is flashing, and only by moving fast to end the inequalities which drive the pandemic can we overcome it. Where leaders are acting boldly and together, bringing together cutting-edge science, delivering services that meet all people's needs, protecting human rights, and sustaining adequate financing, AIDS deaths and new infections are becoming rare. This is only the case in some places and for some people. Our data show that if we carry on as we are now, then we will have a further 12 million deaths over the next 10 years than if we delivered on the bold strategy in full. 12 million more deaths in the next 10 years. And without the inequality fighting approach that we need to end AIDS, the world will also struggle to end the COVID-19 pandemic and will remain unprepared for the pandemics of the future. That would be profoundly dangerous for all of us. Progress on AIDS, which was already off track before COVID, is now under even greater strain as the COVID crisis continues to rage, disrupting HIV prevention and treatment services, disrupting schooling, disrupting violence prevention programs, and much more. On our current trajectory, we are not bending the curve fast enough, and we risk an AIDS pandemic lasting decades. We have to move faster on a set of concrete actions agreed by member states to address the inequalities that drive HIV. Through fighting the AIDS pandemic, we have learned a lot about what we need to do more of to end AIDS and what we need to do for all pandemics as well. We urgently need sufficient community-led and community-based infrastructure as part of a strong public health system that's underpinned by robust civil society accountability. This is a prerequisite. We need policies to ensure fair and affordable access to science. Every new technology should reach each and everyone who needs it without delay. We need to protect our health workers and to expand their numbers to meet our urgent health needs. We must protect human rights and build trust in health systems and all public systems. It is these that will ensure that we close the inequality gaps and end AIDS. But they are too often applied unevenly, they are underfunded, and they are underappreciated. On this World AIDS Day, I salute the frontline communities who have pioneered the approaches shown to be most effective, who have driven the momentum for change, and who are pushing our leaders to be bold. I urge you, activists, communities, keep pushing. And world leaders, let us work together urgently to tackle these challenges head on. I urge you, be courageous in matching your words with deeds. There is not a choice to be made between ending the AIDS pandemic that is raging today and preparing for the pandemics of tomorrow. The only successful approach will achieve both. As of now, we are not on track at all to achieve either. If we take on the inequalities which hold back progress, we can deliver on the promise to end AIDS by 2030. It's in our hands. Every minute that passes, we are losing a precious life to AIDS. We cannot afford that. We don't have time. Let's tackle inequalities. Let's end AIDS. Let's prevent all future pandemics.
Welcome back to Africa Good Morning, your reliable source for decentralized African news. You know, earlier in the morning, I started a poll on one of my social media pages. What's an African country you wish to know more about? And one of the countries mentioned was Zambia. And lucky you, Mike Situla is right here to bring you the news on the ground. Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Africa, good morning. I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing there?
We are as fantastic as we can be. Now, in your first story, Mike, health authorities have U-turned on an early directive to enforce mandatory COVID-19 vaccination amidst threats of the new variant. Could you please expand on this?
Yes, thank you very much. As I speak today, Zambia has not recorded any case of the new variant, according to the Minister of Health who briefed the media yesterday. Then during the media briefing, the minister said that at no point did she say that COVID vaccination is mandatory, but she did mention that whatever government is doing is to protect members of the public from the threats of the fourth wave. And in terms of numbers, the positivity rate is still below 5%, which health authorities are hoping to that it is maintained within the range. Then in terms of other measures that the government has put in there, they have begun to roll out a number of vaccinations to vaccinate as many people as possible. From the time the ministry held their first media briefing in terms of scaling up vaccinations, over 12,000 people across the nation got vaccinated. And because of there's an influx of a lot of people wanting to get vaccinated with the fears of the fourth wave, a number of health centers in the country have run out of vaccines. And the government has assured that all those vaccines, they're going to procure vaccines to make sure that at least by 1st December, the target of vaccinating 2 million people is attained.
All right, Zambia Airways is set to take to the skies tomorrow, with authorities saying airlines is projected to fly 7,000 passengers by 2027. Please tell us more.
700,000.
700,000, yes.
Yeah, actually, to make a correction, the airline, the inaugural flight is supposed to take off today. The plane came through in the country on Monday this week, and that is the inside of the plane. As you might not be aware, the national airline is a joint venture between Ethiopian Airways and the Zambian government through the Industrial Development Corporation. Zambia owns 45%, the Ethiopian Airlines they owe 55%. So according to the minister who officiated at the unveiling ceremony of the first aircraft, the inaugural flight is supposed to take place today, and the airline has got 6 flights, and they are projected to carry over 700,000 passengers by 2027. The airline is a public-private partnership between Development Corporation and the Ethiopian Airline, and the regional flights are expected to start during the first quarter of 2022. So it is highly likely that with the COVID-19 pandemic, authorities are going to ensure that this airline is sustained. As you also may not be aware, the Zambia Airways was grounded in 1994 after it was launched in 1964. So the rebirth of the airline is meant to create Zambia a national hub, because the government of Zambia has established about 2 new airports in Lusaka and on the Copperbelt province.
All right, we always love expansion, especially in that regard. Now, we understand that plans to have the Barotse Plains situated in the western part of Zambia as a UNESCO World Heritage Site have been halted. Could you please get into this?
Yes, the studies and consultations to have the Barotse Plains listed as a UNESCO World Heritage began in 2007, when permission to do so was granted and sought by the Barotse Royal Establishment. The Barotse Royal Establishment is a traditional representing people who speak the Lozi language in the western part of Zambia. So the National Heritage Conservation Commission and the Barotse Royal Establishment had now, before this halt to have the plains listed, spearheaded a campaign dubbed From Barotse to the World, aimed at bringing international recognition to the unique landscape and culture of the Barotse Plains. So the Minister of Tourism has not indicated as to who has complained why the Barotse, the submission to the UNESCO should be halted. They have not complained. They have not issued a statement to say a number of people have complained. So what the minister has said is that for people who are aggrieved to the plans to have the Barotse plans listed, they should use this period to make their submissions known, so that government can make a decision before making this submission to UNESCO next year.
All right, now we always appreciate the comprehensive reports you bring from Zambia. And I know right now everyone's making their holiday plans. I should let you know, Mike, Namibia has not red listed Zambia. If you would like to visit, please come through. We'd love to have you here.
That will be appreciated. Thank you very much. I take that as something that I need to consider serious.
Yes, indeed. This is still Africa. Good morning. Something else you should consider seriously is your weather. Check out the forecast up next.
and win 5,000 Namibian dollars in cash with Neo Paints. Simply buy Neo Paints products from the selected range and stand a chance to get one of 12 mystery buckets filled with gold paint. All 12 winners will each get 3 extra paint buckets equal to their purchase. One to replace the gold paint, the second to use on your project, and the third to give to a charity of their choice. One winner can score another 10,000 Namibian dollars by showing us your creative use of the golden paint. The best project wins the cash. Offer is valid from 27 September to 18 December at your favorite hardware store nationwide. Visit us at neopaints.com for more competition details and follow us on Facebook for weekly competition updates. Neopaints, a coat of excellence.
Win instant cash this spring with Top Score Instant. To enter, buy any new pack of Top Score Instant 1 kg or 500 grams from any store countrywide and stand a chance to win one of 2 grand prizes of 20,000 Namibian dollars or one of 12 weekly prizes of 5,000 Namibian dollars. SMS Instant to 24442. Competition ends 30 November 2021. T's and C's apply. Top Score Instant, a proud product of Namib Mills.
Welcome back to Africa. Good morning. South Africa and neighboring countries are still feeling the effect of the new Omicron COVID-19 variant, with the widespread global isolation still being imposed and maintained. Ari Houghad has this story and more. Good morning, Ari. We are ready for you.
Yes. Very good morning, everyone. Yeah, that's the concern for Southern Africa, not only for South Africa. I think scientists are still trying to figure out or still trying to understand if it's comparable to Delta or if it's more severe, what the challenges are. The reality is that the world's been shutting us down, and has been shutting us down not only in South Africa, but
We seem to be having issues crossing over to Ari. We're going to take a short break and we'll give that another shot.
It's a happy song. Take this ring and put it on a perfect smile, a perfect fit. We can't go wrong. Hey, let's stop the world. Just a boy and girl. Today we'll start together. Today we'll start forever. Ever, ever, oh. Ever, ever, oh. Today we'll start. What if we laughed?
Welcome back to Africa. Good morning. We'll be crossing over to Ari. Ari, our time is slightly limited, quite obviously, so we're going to try and expedite this as efficiently as possible. You were touching on Omicron and its effects on Southern Africa, of course, the world as a whole, but particularly the global isolation that has followed it. Could you please continue?
Yes, just in brief, Ashwin, the Minister, Sirisena Dlomo, indicated that there's a bigger focus now on mandatory vaccination. So that is the big focus in South Africa at the moment. 25.6 million vaccinations been administered, 175,000 just the last 24 hours. So that is the focus at the moment to address it in South Africa. So hopefully there will be good vaccinations in December as well.
All right, now let's talk about South African motorists in Gauteng who will from today pay more than 20 rand a litre for petrol. Please get into that.
Yes, it's getting expensive. It's 20 rand and 35 cents you're paying for that in Gauteng. A little bit cheaper, about 30 cents cheaper in the coastal areas. So it is a big jump from January, about 40% higher. It cost about 14 rand 50 in January this year. So it's a massive jump in the last few months. And obviously, well, the indication is that the petrol will be 9 rand 74 if that wasn't for all the taxes and levies. And obviously, there's money that needs to go to the owners of the petrol stations as well. But at the moment, it is 31% of the petrol price is levied by, that is for taxes, various taxes and fuel levies, road accident funds, etc. So that is the situation at the moment.
All right, community leaders are challenging authorities as the annual Balito Range Festival for students finishing school this year started yesterday in KwaZulu-Natal. Please tell us about this.
Yeah, it is a tradition. It's the Balito Raid, they call it, and also Plettenberg Bay. So those are the young people. Well done to them. They finished their school, but now they want to celebrate that, ready for adult life. But they do that with a celebration. Before COVID, that was quite easy. Now it is challenging. So obviously, last year it was a super spreader. Unfortunately, that's a massive amount of people, as you can see there. This year, they limit that to 2,000 people that's fully vaccinated, and they will do tests as well. They claim, the organizers, last year it was a super spreader, and after the event, 840 positive tests just from that event. So the local community is not happy. Obviously, people coming in from all over the country to their region. So we hope that everybody is vaccinated and everybody is healthy attending that rage.
All right, now South Africa's unemployment rate hit an all-time high in the third quarter as it now stands at 34.9%. Tell us about that.
Unemployment stays a challenge for Southern Africa. Lots of factors play into that as well. I suppose the petrol price don't help as well, but the reality is at 34.9%, the highest, and that's for the third quarter. It's higher than the second quarter, 0.5% higher. So it's still unemployment in the formal sector that is a big challenge. 570,000 people lost their jobs in the formal sector. And the biggest challenge is the ages 15, 16 to 24 years old. 3.4 million of people in that category is currently unemployed. Totally 21 million unemployed. So that is that's a big number. Unfortunately, 12 million people, adults in South Africa unemployed. So big challenge for the government. All these COVID things doesn't help it at all. So hopefully it can be turned around somehow in the near future.
In our feel-good story, the coastal town of Bloembergstrand has reached out to an ice cream seller with a crowdfunding campaign thanking him for the decades of service. Please tell us about this.
Yes, it's a make you feel good story. It's Bloembergstrand. It's right on the coast, just a little bit north of Cape Town. And you can see Table Mountain in the background. That is Uncle George. He's been known for residents there for 43 years. He was selling ice cream since 1978. In the 80s, 90s throughout. Rain or shine, he was always there. He's been described as a kind, loving nature person, warm heart, very patient, and known to give free ice creams to children that were short of money. So brilliant. That is Uncle George at the moment. He's a bit older now. And so the community come together. Every people from Melkbosstrand, they all put in money, and they're putting together for him a growth funding campaign for a pension fund. They got together. Their aim is at least 50,000 at the moment, but it's growing. So great to see. So they're giving back to Uncle George. He's been putting a smile on all our faces. We've been there as well, getting ice creams from Uncle George. So brilliant to see that the community is looking after Uncle George, coming a long way to Berwickstrand to sell us ice creams in a loving way.
Indeed. Indeed, yeah. People who are consistent in helping the community are truly the anchors of society. Thank you very much, Ari, for bringing us the news from South Africa.
Big pleasure. Blessings. Great day for everyone. Bye-bye. Bye.
All right, this is Africa Good Morning. We'll take a short break and we'll be back with your economic news stories. Welcome back to Africa Good Morning. As promised, here are your economic news stories. Coronavirus pandemic could cost global tourism $2 trillion this year. The coronavirus pandemic will likely cost the global tourism sector $2 trillion in lost revenue in 2021, the UN's tourism body said on Monday, calling the sector's recovery fragile and slow. Despite recent improvements, the report warns that demand for travel could be further affected by uneven vaccination rates around the world and new COVID-19 strains which had prompted new travel restrictions in some countries. In the past few days, the emergence of the Omicron variant has led dozens of countries to reinstate restrictions on arrivals or to delay relaxation in COVID-19 travel and testing rules. Although a 58% increase in tourist arrivals was registered in July-September of this year compared to the same period in 2020, this remains 64% below 2019 levels, the UN body found. Data for the third quarter of 2021 is encouraging, UNWTO Secretary General Zuraba Pololikashvili said. However, arrivals are still 76% below pre-pandemic levels and results across the different global regions remain uneven.
South Africa's rand falls as Omicron worries linger. The South African rand retreated early on Tuesday as caution lingered in markets after the discovery of a COVID-19 variant that is spreading in the country and globally. At 0625 GMT, the rand traded at 16.21 against the dollar, roughly 0.46% than its previous close. The currency plunged to its weakest since October 2020 on Friday as the world reacted with alarm to the news of the new variant Omicron, which was first detected in southern Africa. The short-term technical indicators remain in overbought territory, but caution is advised as headlines remain significant market drivers and liquidity is limited, analysts at Nedbank said in a note.
That brings us to the end of our economic news stories. We're going to take a short break and we'll be back with your sports.
I'm gonna cross that river, Jordan. Yes, I am. I'm gonna leave my heart wide open. Yes, I am. Let me tell you, baby, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Oh, baby, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yeah, baby, yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Welcome back to Africa. Good morning. It's time for your sports news stories. Now there's dominance and there's Messi winning Ballon d'Or for the 7th time. Argentina's Lionel Messi won the Ballon d'Or award for the best player in the world for a record-stretching 7th time on Monday, beating Robert Lewandowski and Jorginho to lift soccer's most prestigious trophy yet again. It's incredible to be here again. 2 years ago, I thought it was the last time winning the Copa America, Messi said at Paris's Theatre du Châtelet. It is a special year for me with the Copa America title. It meant a lot to win at the Maracana Stadium, and I was so happy to celebrate with the people from Argentina. The women's Ballon d'Or went to Alexia Putellas after the Spain midfielder guided Barcelona to Champions League victory.
Sevilla commits to All Blacks ditches code switch. All Black superstar Adi Sadia committed to rugby in New Zealand for another 4 years on Tuesday, jettisoning talks of the code switch in Rugby League. Rugby said the highly rated back row and sometimes All Black captain will stay with the side through to the end of the 2025 season. The 28-year-old also signed a deal to keep him with Super Rugby Hurricanes until the end of 2023. While it's taken a while to finalize my contract, my wife Saskia and I are very grateful to be able to play here in New Zealand for another year, Sevilla said. Sevilla debuted for All Blacks in 2016 and has played 59 tests. He has run out 108 times for the Hurricanes and in 2023 will celebrate a decade with the club.
Now from the world of tennis, Raducanu dazzles crowd in Royal Albert Hall homecoming. London's Royal Albert Hall provided a fitting stage on Sunday for teenage tennis sensation Emma Raducanu's first appearance on a British court since her astonishing US Open triumph. It was her first match on home soil since July when her dream Wimbledon debut ended in a fourth-round retirement against Australian Aya Tomljanovic because of breathing difficulties. There was no such drama this time in a light-hearted hit round with her friend and practice partner Ruse, ranked 85th in the world. The serious business starts again now for Raducanu and new coach Torben Belz as she prepares for the looming Australian where she will have a lot to live up to. I know it will take a lot of patience to get to where I want to be and smooth out that consistency. It's all about building robustness physically. It will be my first calendar year on the tour. It will be a cool experience to play a full schedule. I'm still quite young. We will learn and we will get better, she said.
Djokovic probably won't play Australian Open, says the player's father. Novak Djokovic probably won't play the Australian Open in January over mandatory COVID vaccination rules, the world number one's father said on Sunday, likening the restrictions to blackmail. The 34-year-old Djokovic who would be binding for a record-breaking 21st Grand Slam title in Melbourne, has refused to say whether or not he has been vaccinated against coronavirus. But the Australian Open tournament chief Craig Taylor has said that all players must be inoculated to take part. Of course, he would want to go he will want to go with all his heart, Djokovic's father said, who told the Serbian channel Prada TV. Because he is a sportsman and there are a lot of our people, the Serbian diaspora, they would be delighted to see Djokovic rather. But I really don't know what will happen, probably not under these conditions with this blackmail when it's done that way.
All right, that brings us to the end of our sports news stories. We'll take a short break and we'll be back with your headlines. Africa Good Morning has been streaming live from 7 a.m., bringing you news and current affairs from the SADC region and beyond. Now, if you perhaps missed our top stories at the top of the hour, or if you need a recap, worry not, here are some of the headlines. Omicron COVID variant underlines need for global pandemic treaty. Congo denies agreeing to joint operations with Ugandan army. Sudan's Burhan dismisses senior intelligence officers, sources say. Suspected militants kill soldiers in Burkina Faso's desert north. Coronavirus pandemic could cost global tourism $2 trillion this year. Messi wins men's Ballon d'Or for 7th time. Those have been our stories.
We thank you very much for joining us on Africa Good Morning. We do welcome your remarks regarding our show. You can email them to us. Our email is agm_2cents@nmh.com.na. Alternatively, you can post those comments on Facebook and Twitter. That's at Africa Good Morning. We also have a website that's called One Up To, and there you can find all NMH's live shows. We do also appreciate your participation in the fight against the COVID-19. Wear your mask, avoid unnecessary public gatherings, and get vaccinated. From all of us here in studio, it's all our love and all our light, and happy 1st of December.
All right. So that's Wakanaka.